Ooh, boy. Man, I'm so glad I discovered Shorty Long. I mean, that man had a lot of soul. Whew. Oh, boy. We are back here on WLTH 1370 AM. That is 92.7 in the FM dial. Straight out of the cannon with me, Scott Cannon, here on this Friday evening, May the 23rd, 2025. It is 7:23 in the PM. 7:23. So that means I got about 36 minutes left before I got to get out of here. And Dr. Williams comes in with the 2x4 and starts regulating. And I don't want that. So please, if you got anything to say about the topic we're talking about, please, 219-885-1371. The number again, 219-885-1371. I wanted to talk about this because, again, I talk about this topic fairly often because I think the media is probably what's the only occupation that is protected by the Constitution. It's considered the most important of all occupations for that reason. If you don't have a good media, you don't have a good country. If you don't have a free press, you got nothing. And a study just came out recently from Gallup that showed that Americans' trust in the media is at an all-time low. American low trust in the mass media. I wonder why. With 31% expressing a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the media to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. So that's less than 1/3. Less than 1/3 of Americans trust that the media will report the news fairly, fully, and accurately. Wow. Now, Gallup first asked this question in 1972 and have measured it just about every year. Now, in the first few years that they asked it in the 70s, the trust ranged from 68% to 72%. Man, I can't imagine living in a world where 72% of Americans trust the media. Wow. No wonder y'all be wanting to go back to the 70s. Now, by the late 90s and early 2000s, it was a smaller majority, 51% to 55%, but still the majority of Americans trusted the media. Now, as generally been the case, different parties and their constituents have different levels of confidence in the media. So currently, 54% of Democrats and 27% of independents and only 12% of Republicans say that they have a great deal or fair amount of trust in the media. And looking at this, I got to ask, what the hell is wrong with you Democrats? Why do you guys trust the media? How can you trust this crap? Like, seriously, after Iraq, after Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Vietnam, after COVID, after Ukraine, after all of this, how can you still have so much trust in the media? And black people, I wish there was a, let me see, is there anything about black people here? Let me see if there's anything. I bet not see black people. Okay, all right. Majority of black people think the media is racist, so I guess apparently these are mostly white Democrats. I don't see how anybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent, could trust the media at this point. Now, at first, the Democrats' trust in the media ranged from 68% to 76% between 2017 and 2022, but fell to 58% a few years ago and has edged down ever since. Over the past 2 decades, significant gaps in trust have also emerged by age and analysis by age groups using aggregated data to increase sample sizes show a 17 percentage point gap in the trust between the oldest Americans and those 65 and older, and those under 50, 43% versus 26%. So older Americans actually trust the media more than young people. I don't know why. Maybe, I guess because you guys grew up in the 70s, came up in the 70s, when the media could still be somewhat trusted. I'm guessing. Maybe that's it. I mean, I would say people under 40, under 50 have never lived in a world where the media was trustable. Now, the news media is actually the least trusted group among 10 U.S. civic and political institutions involved in the democratic process. The legislative branch, or Congress, is rated about as badly as the media, with only 34% of people trusting it. And I gotta ask, what the hell is wrong with those people? How can 34% of people actually trust Congress? Like, seriously, what is going on? Did they only poll people in Congress? I couldn't imagine people in Congress would trust Congress, much less people not in Congress. Good God. 34% ain't low enough. I know it's about 1/3, but that still ain't low enough. I would only expect like the people who have legitimate mental health disorders to trust Congress. In contrast, majorities of U.S. adults express a fair amount of trust in their local government to handle problems. 67%. Well, that's probably because most people have more of a say in what goes on in local government, even though, let's just be real, local governments are pretty corrupt too. And between 40 and 48% of Americans trust the judicial branch headed by the U.S. Supreme Court. So I don't see how that is. I mean, we've seen how corrupt Clarence Thomas is. All the gifts and all the money he's gotten from people whose interest he rules on. How can anybody trust Supreme Court after that? But I guess a lot of people don't pay attention to politics. Now, each of these individual readings is below the average dating back to 1972, with several near their historical low ratings, including the federal government's handling of domestic and international problems, the executive and judicial branches, and the American people as a whole. Obviously, as I said earlier, Democrats trust entities more than Republicans do, except for the judicial branch. Wow. That is shocking to me. But the majority of black people, however, see the media as racist. So I'm hoping that, like I said, most of these numbers are just from sort of, not from black people, I'll say that. You know, I don't think anybody should be trusting the media, but I definitely can't see how black people trust it. 4 in 5 black adults see racist depictions in the news either often or sometimes. That is what the study says. A new study says black Americans express broad concerns about how they are depicted in the news media, with the majority saying that they see racist or negative depictions and a lack of effort to cover broad segments of our community. That is 100% facts. 4 in 5 black adults say that they see, according to the race, this is according to the Pew Research Center. Let me say that. That first poll is from Gallup. This one's from the Pew Research Center. 63% of respondents are saying that news about black people is often more negative than it is towards other racial or ethnic groups, with only 28% saying it's about equal. 57% of the respondents say that the media only covers certain segments of the black communities, compared to a 9% who say that a wide variety is depicted. We talk about this all the time. America our media cannot wait to show you the most ghetto, the most coonish and buffoonish elements of our community. Now, again, I don't believe in censorship. That's one thing I've always disagreed with people like Kwabena and those people about. It's a free country. People can listen to the music they want. That's my personal opinion. You don't like it? Don't listen to it. Okay? But we need balance. We need balance in images. And that's one of the good things about having the Cosby Show. That was one of the good things about having, you know, the Jeffersons or whatever. You saw a balance of things. You didn't just see people in the projects and in the ghetto, but America, for some reason, loves to highlight the ghetto element of the black experience, which, again, is a part of the black experience. I would never say that it's not. But to say that the black experience is only about living in the ghetto, I have a problem with that. I definitely have a problem with that. During a time of sharp partisan differences, the study found virtually no difference in attitudes towards news coverage between black Democrats and Republicans. So that's good. It's actually good where black Democrats and Republicans both see the media as racist. 46% of Republicans and 44% of Democrats say that the news coverage largely stereotypes black people. Negative attitudes toward the press tended to increase with income and education levels. That's interesting as well. I think a lot of the bourgeois, the black boulets, a lot of those types are embarrassed by what they see as lower class blacks. And it probably chides them more than anybody else to see, you know, hood people on TV and ghetto rappers on TV at all times. So I think that might have a lot to do with it. Now, 57% of those in lower income levels say that news coverage about black people is more negative than it was about other groups. 75% of the wealthier respondents do. So yeah, to me it seems like the black people who have money and wealth and education are embarrassed to an extent by what they see of their own people, whereas a lot of the 57%, a lot of more uneducated or people who have less wealth, let's just be real, time to ingest news media. A lot of those people probably are not as, let's just say, nuanced in their views of how the news covers the black community. A large majority of black people who were surveyed expressed very little confidence that things would change in their lifetime. Yeah, I really don't think that's going to change. I really don't see it changing. It's one of the reasons why I support independent media. I support people like us here at WLTH, 1370M, 92.7 on your FM dial. We are an independently owned radio station owned by black people. This is not a corporate-owned radio station. It's one of the reasons I like being here. I also only really watch independent news media or foreign if it's not. But if it's not independent here in America, I generally only watch, foreign sources about stuff that comes out of America, because you really can't trust anything coming out of America from the corporate American media. You just can't. I'm sorry. 40% of the survey's participants said that it was important to see black journalists report on these issues about race and racial inequality. The race of the journalist was not, however, that important about general news. So I can understand that. You'd want to see somebody black report on stories about black people. That's not really news whatsoever. So I thought these were very interesting polls to look at. Let's get this caller. Hello, caller. What's up?
Hey, it's Amir.
1 minute.
I was thinking about something you said earlier. Well, now imagine that Iraq was a staged routine, and what I mean by that is like the weapons already been certified, had been destroyed. We went into that full blast, Now, a few years before that, we had the Taliban in the office with President Reagan negotiating how they're going to work with the CIA to take care of these other guys.
Yep.
And so it's an ever-going thing. And then, of course, what's going on now, we've got the Homeland Security now. It has American policing with no due process.
Yep.
Now, what could it possibly do politically?
That's a good question. When you're talking about having no due process whatsoever.
Wait, I didn't say that. I said, do you imagine, though, the president declared he doesn't really understand the whole thing. He has to refer to his lawyers.
Well, what's his name actually lied to him, Stephen Miller.
Yeah.
Stephen Miller, his advisor, when he was told that they had lost the case, the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, and that they were ordered to bring him back from El Salvador, and they weren't allowed to send people without due process to El Salvador. His advisor, right in front of the media, said, "No, we won that case. It was a complete lie." Donald Trump has zero awareness whatsoever about he knows that he knows what he wants to do, and he keeps people around him who are going to tell him nothing about what he wants to hear about things like habeas corpus, about things like about what we were talking about.
Imagine if I could.
Right.
All the things we think of as being trusted institutions. I mean, this is where we hold our trust in.
Right.
And every one of them, these people are turning it into basically pools of corruption and oddities.
I agree. Thank you for your call. It's all good, brother. Sorry I had to go. The second call has to be, short. That's the station policy, folks, not my policy. But yeah, I actually agree with the caller. All of our trusted institutions have lost their luster. They are definitely not looked at the way that they used to be. The mainstream media, the military, our Congress, the White House, the military, anything. And a lot of that has to do with, again, the effects of big money. Corporations own our media. Corporations own our president. We just saw the richest man in the world buy his way into the White House, basically. That's how Elon Musk got to be the head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. He got to be that because he just spent $250 million buying off the president. As we speak, if I'm not mistaken, there is a party going on with the Trump administration where people have spent up to $20 million buying Donald Trump's scam Bitcoin, Trump coin, to get the opportunity to meet him. And so you can basically openly buy access to the president. We just saw Qatar, which I like to pronounce like it rhymes with guitar. We just saw Qatar buy him a jet, and he supposedly gave it to, oh well, it's not my jet, it's the White House's jet, but it will be his jet in a few years. So again, this is the effect of big money. This is again something that you don't see as often in much of the civilized world, not America. And we have fallen behind so much in so many ways. And so much of the world is laughing at us for our corruption, for our ineptitude. I mean, just look at China's bullet trains. They're building bullet trains. They have cities that are completely lit up and look like something out of science fiction novels. That's what you can do when you haven't bombed a country since 1979. China hasn't bombed the country since 1979. That's what you can do when you do that. You can have brilliant cities that look like they're out of science fiction, and you can have trains, and they have flying cars now. They have flying cars. They're curing diabetes. And what are we spending money on? The military-industrial complex. More tax cuts for the rich. You know, this is how empires end, folks. This is how empires end. All right, folks, you hear the music, so that means it's time for me to take my last break before I have to get out of here. I know this show has been pretty heavy, so we're gonna get into some good news. Good news when we get back. We'll be right back after these here on Straight Out of the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon.